بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين صلى الله وسلم وبارك على عبده ورسوله نبينا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه. أما بعد، قال المؤلف رحمه الله الحافظ شمس الدين الذهبي: الكبيرة الخامسة والعشرون قاتل نفسه، وهي من أعظم الكبائر. قال الله تعالى: ولا تقتلوا أنفسكم إن الله كان بكم رحيما ومن يفعل ذلك عدوانا وظلما فسوف نصليه نارا وكان ذلك على الله يسيرا إن تجتنبوا كبائر ما تنهون عنه نكفر عنكم سيئاتكم وندخلكم مدخلا كريما. وقال تعالى: والذين لا يدعون مع الله إلها آخر ولا يقتلون النفس التي حرم الله إلا بالحق. الآيات. وعن جندب بن عبد الله رضي الله عنه عن النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم قال: كان ممن كان قبلكم رجل به جرح فجزع فأخذ سكينا فحز بها يده فما رقع الدم حتى مات. قال الله تعالى: بادرني عبدي بنفسه حرمت عليه الجنة. متفق عليه. وعن أبي هريرة رضي الله تعالى عنه قال: قال رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم: من قتل نفسه بحديدة فحديدته في يده يتوجأ بها في بطنه في نار جهنم مخلدا فيها أبدا. ومن قتل نفسه بسم فسمه في يده يتحساه في نار جهنم مخلدا فيها أبدا. متفق عليه. وفي الحديث الصحيح: الذي آلمته الجراح فاستعجل الموت فقتل نفسه بذباب سيفه فقال النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم: هو من أهل النار. عن يحيى بن كثير بن بقلابة عن ثابت بن الضحاك عن النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم قال: لعن المؤمن كقتله، ومن قذف مؤمنا بكفر فوق قتله كذا، ومن قتل نفسه بشيء عذبه الله به يوم القيامة. حديث صحيح. Major sin number 25, Al-Dhahabi rahimahullah, the great Hafiz, he says, is suicide, to kill yourself. He says, وَهِيَ مِنْ أَعْظَمِ الْكَبَائِرِ, and it is from the greatest and most formidable of major sins. He says, suicide, which is from the greatest of major sins. And inshallah, we're going to read the matan in English as we just did in Arabic, Jardan, all at once, and then go back with some brief commentary and some brief explanation and some very, very important points of discussion regarding this chapter. Very important points of discussion. He says here, Allah the Sublime and the Exalted says in Surah An-Nisa, verse 29 to verse 30, do not kill yourselves. Allah is oft merciful with you, or to you. And he who does that, عدوانا, out of aggression, وظلما, and oppression, فسوف نصليه نارا, we will burn him in the fire. And that is easy for Allah to do. If you avoid the major things that you are prohibited, نكفر عنكم سيئاتكم, we will forgive you of your sins, in other words, the minor sins, and we will allow you into a noble place, into Jannah, Firdaus, into the Jannah, the gardens of paradise. وقال تعالى, Allah the Exalted, He says, those who invoke not other deities with Allah, nor do they kill the soul that Allah has made unlawful, إِلَّا بِالْحَقِّ, except with a legitimate, just reason. Hadith number 191, we're in the 25th chapter, alhamdulillah, we've covered almost 200 hadiths. He says, narrated Jundub ibn Abdullah radiallahu anhu, the Prophet ﷺ said, there was a man who came before you who was wounded with a very nasty wound, and he lost patience. He couldn't bear the pain and agony and the suffering of his wound in battle. So he took a knife and he slit his wrists. He says, the blood continued to pour until he died. Allah the Exalted said, this slave fights with me and challenges me with his own nafs. He says, I have made paradise unlawful for him. He will not go to Jannah. And hadith is in Bukhari and in Muslim. Hadith number 192, Abu Hurairah narrates, the Prophet ﷺ said, the Messenger of Allah, anyone who kills himself with a piece of iron, or a piece of steel, yani metal. The word hadida in Arabic language has several meanings. The original meaning is hadid, iron. And even before then we have bronze, we have copper, let alone before the invention of different types of metal, steel, things like this, melting and molding metals together and making an alloy, a different type of metal. But the asl of it is, khayran inshallah. He says here, the iron, He says here is deep. Even to this day, they say this.
No.
Carrying the iron. The concept of metal. And Allah Azza wa Jalla, He vividly mentions in the Quran that He sent down hadid, in which He says, Ba'sun shadid, is great strength and great power in metal. Khairan, inshallah. Moving forward. He says, anyone who kills himself with a piece of metal, then he will have it in his hand in the fire of hell, stabbing himself in the belly over and over again. He will be in hellfire forever. And he who kills himself with poison, he will drink that poison in the fire of hell, in which he will remain forever. And this hadith is agreed upon by Bukhari and Muslim. He says, it states in the authentic hadith that the Prophet ﷺ spoke on a man who was wounded and he couldn't bear the pain and the agony of the wounds. Another version, he says, فَاسْتَعْجَلَ الْمَوْتَى. He was hasty and he killed himself. And he put his sword into his chest. The Prophet ﷺ, he says, he will be from the people of the fire. Hadith number 194, the last hadith of the chapter. He says, narrated Yahya ibn Abi Kathir, al-Yamami, an Abi Qilabata, an Thabit ibn al-Dhahak, that the Prophet ﷺ said, cursing a Muslim is like killing a Muslim. Slandering a Muslim, he says, bi kufrin, with kufr, shows the danger of takfir. Accusing a Muslim to have kufr is like killing him as well. And he who kills himself with a thing, Allah will punish him therewith on the day of judgment. Allah will punish him with that instrument, with that tool, with that poison, or that pill, or that needle, or that Kool-Aid, whatever that thing is, on the day of judgment. And Al-Dhahabi rahimahullah says this hadith is sahih. So back to the chapter heading, it says suicide, which is from the greatest of sins. Why is suicide such a great sin? What's the problem with suicide? As we mentioned in some of these hadiths, is that one of the worst crimes of suicide is that it is a means of disrespect to Allah. And it is a means of ultimate lack of patience. And it is also a means of severe displeasure with the qadr. This is why it's from the greatest sins. Number one, a person is not patient. Allah decreed the wound. Allah decreed the suffering. Allah decreed the poverty. Whatever it is, Allah decreed the illegitimate pregnancy. Everybody understand this? It's a very common issue today. Allah decreed that to happen. It's the qadr of Allah. Khair or shar. Allah had decreed it. It's in the past. You can't go back and change it. Allah decreed for you to get pregnant. Allah decreed for you to have this problem and that problem. So are you ruining yourself, ruining your life, taking your life? That clearly shows that you're 101% unwilling to have any sabr in the future. Only Allah knows what can happen, what can come forth from this situation, how Allah can deliver you. What you don't know. But I'm not willing, O Allah. I don't care, and I'm unwilling to have any sabr upon your qadr. So this is a disrespect to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Also, it is a means of rushing and hastening and contending with something that is Allah's haqq. Huwa yuhyi wa yumeet. Allah gives life and takes it. Allah gives life and causes death. So for you to kill yourself, even though Allah decrees that as well, and is your fixed appointed time, it's your ajal when you kill yourself, but you don't know that. You're attempting to rush forth and hastening something that Allah has not allowed you to. And there are other times in which that's permissible, which we're going to get into. When it's permissible for you to rush forth and ruining your life. That's a different story. We'll get into that, inshallah. It's very important. And last but not least, a person is displeased with the qadr. He's not happy with what happened. And being happy with the qadr, in general, is mandatory. The specific thing that happens, the specific act, that is not mandatory upon every single Muslim to have. Ar-Ridha bil-Qadr is something, everything that happens, that's a high level of iman that only a few people have. Many may claim it, many may say we're pleased with it, but deep down inside, it may be different. There's different levels of qadr. With regards to the slave, there's sabr, patience with the qadr. There's being ar-Ridha bil-Qadr, and there's also a shukr al-farah. وَهَذَا طَبْعًا هِيَ قِمَّةٌ. It's for a person to be happy when Allah tests you with something. I'm happy. Alhamdulillah, Allah took this from me. Yes, it's a good thing. I'm glad. Only a few people can enjoy that high level of sweetness, that pure, unadulterated, grade A, organic asal, that honey that's so sweet. Just a few of us can even dream about tasting that. Everybody understand it? So there's different levels when it comes to the qadr. But the basic level is that you have to be pleased with Allah in general. And this is what we spoke on in yesterday's khutbah and last night in Nashid Taqwa, an-nafsul mutma'inna, the tranquil soul, the soul that is at rest with what Allah decrees and legislates and allows and causes to happen. So these are some of the reasons why suicide is such a bad thing in Islam. And if we don't have these wisdoms, then we say it's haram, and it's a means of major punishment, as the Prophet ﷺ said, period. Hakala. Whether we know the wisdom or not, whether we know some of the reasons or not, whether we have some of the purposes or not, we don't mix the two. We say these things because Allah and His Messenger have told us about them, to make it easier for us to accept and to submit. And if that wasn't the case, سمعنا وأطعنا. قولوا آمنا. We believe and what was sent down to us, what was sent down upon the prophets who came before. Everybody understand this? So these are some of the reasons why suicide is such a bad thing. Now, some issues that pertain to suicide. The first issue is euthanasia. Is it permissible to put something or someone out of their misery? Whether it is yourself, or even not suicide, but killing someone else, which is directly attached, it connected. Someone is in a hospital, someone has been severely harmed or severely mentally and physically damaged and retarded and things like this, and they say this person will never ever go back to having a normal life. They're in a constant state of pain. They're going to be drugged with medicine 24 hours out the day. They can do nothing but sit there on the bed. That's it. Is it permissible to pull the cord or pull the plug? Is it permissible to inject them with a serum that will kill them, that will take their souls and quote unquote take them out of their misery because they are suffering? Is this permissible or is this haram? Some people, regardless of the Islamic view on this, they say that this person is in pain, suffering. It's no normal life for this person, and the person is nothing but a liability upon family, upon the state. Is of no khayr that's coming from this person staying alive. So the merciful thing to do is to do what? Take his life. Or the concept of a dog. I'm not saying a human being is like a dog, but the whole concept is an old dog. The dog is sick. It's weak. The dog can't go to the bathroom outside. It can't walk how it used to. Is of no purpose. It's suffering. It's choking. It's this and it's that. It sits in its own waste. So the owner, your grandfather, what does he do, Jeremy? He takes him out back. And he does what?
Splits his wing.
Kills the dog. We don't know this? Okay, well, I'm from up north. I thought, everybody saying this? Puts the dog out of his what?
Misery.
It's misery. It's suffering. Or old mule on the farm. Naam Sheikhan? Old horse. They can't do no good. It's suffering. You feed it. It does nothing. You do what? You slaughter it. Is this permissible? Or is it mandatory for you to allow it to have the natural state of death? Let alone with a person himself. A person who's wounded severely, can he commit suicide? Another concept is, another branch, and I'm not saying this is my opinion or my view, I just say it's halal or haram. قلنا مسألة فقط. نعرض ايش؟ نستعرض المسائل الفرعيات. الجواز التحريم لم نقل شيء من هذا. عرفنا كيف؟ فليشهد لم نقل شيء ايش؟ من هذا ولا ذاك. We just say it's permissible and impermissible. As I feel, as our way of studying, we present different issues to you. The next issue is when a combatant is going to be captured. He's a captive of the enemy, and he knows for sure, or he feels very confident that these kuffar will torture him severely. And not only will they torture him severely and mutilate him and mock him, and perhaps they will violate him sexually, as it's happened, okay, in the news. It's well known what they did to many of the captives in the Middle East. They tortured them mentally, physically, psychologically, and they also violated, they molested them, men and women. The United States Army, they did this. This is not a conspiracy theory. This is factual information, okay? So a person, he knows that they're going to torture me, they're going to rape me, they're going to degrade me, let alone the information they're going to take from me regarding the Muslims and the secrets of the Muslims. Is it permissible for this person to take his life? Everybody understand this? Obviously, many people, they're going to say, no, you can't do it because it's suicide, kada wa kada. And others, they may say, this does not pertain to that. This is suicide, not in this what? In this situation. Everybody understand this? That's the issue. Is it permissible or impermissible? We didn't say yes or no. A third issue, and this is probably the most important and the most commonly spoke on, is the concept of quote-unquote suicide bombings or making yourself a martyr. Is it permissible for a Muslim to attach dynamite or explosives to him and detonate himself and kill non-Muslims? Is that permissible? Based off of this, many they would say it's haram. You can't do that. No matter what damage you cause the enemies, no matter what harm and fear you put in them, that's a concept in itself. Okay? All Allah and His Rasul says, not what the weak Muslims today say. تُرْهِبُونَ بِهِ عَدُوَ اللَّهِ وَعَدُوَكُمْ هذا في القرآن العزيز. هذا نص مقدس. The Holy Scripture, Allah Azza wa Jalla says, تُرْهِبُونَ. He says, cause terror and fear in the hearts of عَدُوِي وَعَدُوَكُمْ. He says, in the hearts of my enemies and yours. Now, your interpretation of that, how you want to twist it and warp it and no. That's your own standing in front of Allah Yawm al-Qiyamah. But that's what Allah says. Everybody understand this? Jabir ibn Abdullah narrated in Bukhari Muslim that the Prophet ﷺ said, أُعْطِيتُ خَمْسًا لَمْ يُعْطَهُنَّ أَحَدٌ قَبْلِي. He says, I've been given 5 things no prophet has been given before me. Nobody. And from those 5 things, he says, وَنُسِرْتُ بِالرُّعْبِ مَسِيرَةَ شَهْرٍ. He says, I've been given nusr. Allah supports me by striking fear in my enemies' hearts a month's distance. Allah Akbar. Before he would get to his enemy, from a very long distance, they will be trembling and shaking, afraid of the Prophet and the Sahaba. Everybody understand this? Now, what people do in the media, outside, we're not talking about this and we're not talking about that. We're talking about Quran and what? Sunnah. If someone wants to persecute us for what it says in Quran and Sunnah, then that's what they have to do. Political agendas, this, that, we're not talking about that. We're not saying go outside and do anything crazy against yourself, against Allah, against Rasul, against anything. Everybody understand this? Just for the record. Just for what? Just for the record. But that's what it says in the Quran. Fear. So therefore, is it permissible for a person to do this? Some say, obviously no. And others, they may say, it is permissible because these texts don't apply to that. This is a means of fighting, especially when the Muslims are severely outnumbered, outgunned, outmanned. The list goes on. The Muslims have no support. They have no formal army, no formal this, no formal that. So a big part of the Muslims fighting against their enemies, those who have invaded their countries, taken their lands, raped their women, destroys Allah's masjids, desecrated the mushafs, and things like this, is guerrilla warfare. Everybody understand this? Is guerrilla warfare. And it's a well-known department of fighting, guerrilla warfare. A smaller, weaker, inferior force fighting a larger, stronger, superior force. That in most cases, they have people that have traded on the weaker, smaller force, that give them information. People that are in their ranks, that have infiltrated them. They've bought them out with money, with alcohol, with women, with political power, promising them land. When we wipe out what? All of the rebels. We get rid of all of the rebels, we'll give you this land. So therefore, these people, they don't have too much of an option how to fight. What are we to do? It's easy for you to say it's haram, you can't do this, but you don't have a country that's been violated. You didn't see your mother, your sister, your wife, and your aunt raped in a masjid. Or people taking missiles and using the masjid as target practice. You didn't see that. That's not happening to you. So you can sit on the TV and say, it's haram, it's khawarij, la yajuz, so on and so forth. That's easy for you to say. But for these people fighting for their basic rights, it may be what? Maybe a different view. Everybody understand this? Maybe what? A different view. And they don't have no formal way of fighting these people. And one of the pillars of guerrilla warfare is to make the larger, stronger enemy lose the stomach to fight. And that is the word called demoralization. To demoralize the enemy. If you don't leave our country and stop oppressing us, we're going to cause you terror and fear. You're not going to be able to go to the movie theater and eat your popcorn and drink and have fun. It doesn't work like that. You can't just take our stuff and you have your little peaceful, civilized life. It doesn't work like that. So this is the view of some people based off of this. Another issue is the concept of suicide inside of jihad fi sabilillah. Is it an act of suicide for a man that is extremely courageous and brave to go and fight the enemy And in 9 out of 10 times, he is going to die. He knows that if he runs into these people, they're going to fill him with bullets. They're going to kill him instantly. But he charges at them, he attacks them, and perhaps he can do some damage to them. This is a different issue now. The first issue is different. A person taking a bomb and blowing himself, this is different now. Everybody clear on this? This is what? This is a bit different. This is a finely tuned issue now. I'm not killing myself, but I'm launching myself into what? Harm's way. Everybody understand this? فإن الفرق بين هذه وتلك في فرق كبير بغض النظر عن الجواز أو التحريم. Regardless of it, it's permissible or permissible. It's a different issue now. Can I throw myself into the enemy's harm? There's no guarantee that I'm going to die. But it is what? It's a great possibility. Hey, without a doubt. 9 out of 10 times I'm going to what? Die. I'm going to die. But there is no what? Guarantee. The person who pressed the button is what? Death. He's taking his life. The second person, as if he's taking his life, and as if he isn't taking his life. And Allah says, وَلَا تُلْقُوا بِأَيْدِيكُمْ إِلَى التَّهْلُكَةِ. Do not throw yourselves into destruction. One of the Sahaba, in the narration, he said this to another companion who was about to do this. He says, that's not what the verse means. That verse means, do not turn away from Allah's forgiveness and stop seeking istighfar. That's what it means. As far as a man who's brave and willing to throw himself into the enemy, that doesn't mean that. So there's a very, very long discussion with regards to these issues: euthanasia, suicide bombing, a person driving into the kuffar. Everybody understand this? Is it permissible to fight people that outnumber you? And we say, in brief, not to go too long or too deep, is that whatever you believe to be permissible has to be based off of Kitab and Sunnah. And that which is impermissible, it has to be based off Kitab and Sunnah. As far as political influence, media, this, that, the kuffar, that does not pertain to the rulings of Allah and His Rasul. Well, you can't do this because the Muslims are outnumbered, so you can't fight. Akhi, was there ever a battle when the Muslims were never outnumbered? In the time of the Prophet ﷺ, Battle of Badr, were they not outnumbered? So that's feeble. Also, the concept of the influence on a fatwa. And I'm not talking about no specific person or country, for the record, but a fatwa that's given in which there's influence. Suicide bombing is haram because of the political relation between these two countries. Between this country, between that country, and between the quote-unquote Jewish state. So obviously, if that mufti, if he's forced or influenced to give a fatwa supporting this or against that, because of the relationship with them and with those, he's going to say that suicide bombing in Palestine is what? Haram. And it's totally haram and it has to be avoided. And I'm not trying to mess nobody up, but this is a reality of fiqh. The taste, the joke, the environment of the person and of the one who's giving the fatwa have an effect upon the fatwa. And for this reason, we read the different books of the people of today, the muhaqqiqeen, the modern service that they do of the old books, and they make a biography of the author. They talk about al-halatu siyasi in al-mu'allif, the political atmosphere of the author's life. Did he live in a time in which the Shia were in charge? The Sunnis were in charge? Did he grow up in an Ash'ari country? The Ibadiyya, the Zahiri, the Batiniyya, these different groups and political schisms. He lived in the Mamluk era and so on and so forth era. In Yemen, he lived when the communists were there, so on and so forth. كل هذا له تأثير على هذا الشيخ وعلى هذا المؤلف هذا الإمام له تأثير على عقله وعلى رأيه وكل شيء. This has an effect upon a person and what he says. So the concept of is it haram or is it not haram, it can only be based off of Kitab and Sunnah. And those who say that it is haram, they have to prove it based off of what? Kitab and Sunnah. And those who say that it isn't haram, it's halal, they have to prove it based off of Kitab and Sunnah. Foreign alien elements have no place in this issue, in any other issue, but especially what? In this issue. I don't want to go too far. I don't want to say too much. I'm not giving you my opinion, my view, my ruling. I'm not qualified to do that anyway. I'm just a beginner, what? Student of knowledge. That's it, nothing else. Everybody doing this. So therefore, these are some issues that pertain to suicide. Away from all of this, you have just the common everyday suicide. Suicide that comes from drugs. Suicide that comes from, as you said, zina, children before marriage. A girl, she wants to kill herself. When we were in Guyana, we went to the school, the children's school, the principal of the school. He specifically asked me to please speak about suicide. It was a non-Muslim school. He says, talking about Allah, His Rasul, about Hinduism, about Islam, about Christianity. The Muslims were the minority in that school, West Demerara School. He says, but please don't forget to talk about suicide, because there's a high rate of suicide in Guyana, especially among young girls. And we were at the gas station, we were at the restaurant, we were at this place. Only Allah knows how many women we saw with what? Scabs on their wrists. So regardless of jihad and this and that, these mashakil, just the general everyday New York City suicide that comes from drug abuse, that comes from having a boyfriend, having a girlfriend, comes from a person getting an STD, shame upon one's family, depression. I didn't get accepted to this team, this college. I didn't get this scholarship. I didn't make first round draft pick. So on and so forth. And the list goes on of reasons behind suicide. These things are all what? Haram. And they're means of major sins. And these are some of the reasons why. This is a very brief, humble, simple discussion of the issue. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala knows best. We ask Him to protect us from suicide and from doing these evil acts. Walhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen.